Every morning at exactly 8:15, Emma walked into Blue Leaf Cafe. It was a small place tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop on Maple Street. The wooden tables were slightly scratched, the bell above the door chimed softly, and the smell of fresh coffee wrapped around anyone who entered like a warm hug. Emma liked routines, and this cafe was her favorite part of the day. She always ordered the same thing, a medium cappuccino, no sugar, and a butter croissant. She sat by the window, opened her notebook, and wrote, sometimes stories, sometimes thoughts she never planned to share with anyone. That morning felt no different, until she noticed him. He was sitting at the corner table, where usually no one sat. A stranger, late 30s, maybe early 40s, dark coat, even though the weather was warm. His hair was slightly messy, like he had run his fingers through it too many times. He wasn't on his phone, he wasn't reading, he was just staring into his coffee. Emma didn't know why, but she felt an odd pull to look at him again. She quickly looked back at her notebook. Don't be silly, she told herself. Yet, the stranger stayed in her thoughts. When she glanced up again, their eyes met. For a brief second, time paused. The man looked surprised, almost startled, then quickly looked away. Emma felt her cheeks warm. She took a sip of coffee to distract herself. The next day, he was there again. Same corner table, same dark coat, same distant look. This time, Emma noticed more details. The faint lines around his eyes, as if he smiled often in another life. His hands, long fingers, slightly trembling as he held the cup. She wondered what his story was. On the third day, something unexpected happened. The cafe was unusually crowded, and Emma's usual window seat was taken. She stood awkwardly, scanning the room, when the stranger looked up. "You can sit here," he said, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. His voice was calm, a little tired, but kind. "Thank you," Emma replied, surprised at herself for accepting so easily. They sat in silence for a moment. Not an uncomfortable silence, more like a quiet understanding. "I'm Daniel," he finally said. "Emma." Another pause. "You come here every morning," Daniel said. "Same time, same order." Emma smiled. "You noticed?" "So do you," he replied gently. That made her laugh. They began talking, slowly at first, about the cafe, about coffee, about how Maple Street used to be quieter years ago. Daniel was a photographer, or at least he used to be. "I lost my wife 2 years ago," he said suddenly, staring into his cup. This was her favorite place. Emma didn't know what to say, so she listened. "She used to sit at that window seat," he continued, "writing, just like you." Emma felt something tighten in her chest. "I come here because it's the only place where I still feel close to her," Daniel admitted. Emma closed her notebook. "I lost someone too," she said softly. "My brother, 5 years ago." They didn't speak after that. They didn't need to. From that day on, they sat together every morning. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes they shared silence. Daniel showed Emma old photographs, moments frozen in time, filled with love and light. Emma shared her writing, words she had never dared to show anyone. Slowly, the cafe changed for both of them. One rainy morning, Daniel didn't come. Emma waited and waited. Her coffee grew cold. The next day, he still wasn't there. By the third day, worry settled deep inside her. On the fourth day, she found an envelope on the corner table. It had her name on it. Inside was a photograph of the cafe window, sunlight pouring in. On the back, Daniel had written, "Thank you for reminding me how to live again. I needed to leave, but I will never forget you." Tears blurred her vision. Weeks passed. Emma kept coming to the cafe, sitting at the corner table now. She wrote more than ever. She smiled more. She remembered. One quiet morning, the bell chimed. Emma looked up. Daniel stood there. No dark coat this time. He looked lighter, happier. "I thought you left forever," she whispered. "I almost did," he said. "But some strangers are meant to become something more." Emma smiled, realizing something important. Sometimes a stranger at a cafe isn't just a passing face. Sometimes they arrive to heal parts of us we didn't know were broken, and sometimes they stay. Daniel's return felt unreal. For a moment, Emma just stared at him, afraid that if she blinked, he might disappear again, like a memory. The cafe looked the same, the warm lights, the familiar smell of coffee, but something inside her had shifted. "You came back," she finally said. Daniel nodded. "I needed time to grieve properly, to learn how to breathe without pain in every breath." Emma gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit." As he sat down, their hands brushed lightly. It was a small touch, but both of them felt it, like a quiet promise neither was ready to name. "I went to the coast," Daniel said. "I took photographs again. Real ones, not just memories." Emma smiled. "I kept writing." "I know," he replied. "I read your blog." Her eyes widened. "You found it?" "You forgot to change your notebook's cover once," he said with a teasing smile. "Curiosity won." They laughed, and for the first time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt alive. Days turned into weeks. Their mornings at the cafe became longer. Sometimes Daniel brought his camera and took pictures of Emma as she wrote, sunlight catching in her hair. Sometimes Emma followed Daniel through quiet streets, watching him capture ordinary moments: an old man feeding birds, a child chasing bubbles, a couple holding hands. "You see beauty everywhere," Emma said once. Daniel shook his head. "No, I lost it once. That's why I recognize it now." One evening, Daniel invited Emma to an exhibition. "My first one after everything," he said quietly. The gallery was small but full. Daniel's photographs lined the walls, each one telling a story of loss, healing, and hope. In one corner, Emma stopped. It was a photograph of the Blue Leaf Cafe window. Empty chair, soft light. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It's about waiting," Daniel said, "and trusting that someone will sit there." Emma turned to him. "Daniel, are we just two broken people keeping each other company?" He thought for a moment. "Maybe," he said honestly, "but broken things can still hold warmth." That night, as they walked under streetlights, rain began to fall lightly. Daniel stopped. "Emma," he said, his voice unsure, "I don't want to replace anyone in my life, and I don't want to be a shadow in yours." She stepped closer. "Then don't replace, just be." They didn't kiss. Not yet. But they stood there, rain soaking through their clothes, knowing something real had begun. The cafe bell rang the next morning. Emma entered at 8:15, as always. Daniel was already there, holding 2 cups of cappuccino, no sugar. "For you," he said. Emma smiled, realizing that routines could change and still feel like home. And somewhere between coffee cups and quiet conversations, a stranger slowly became a choice. Not to forget the past, but to walk forward together. The cafe no longer felt like just a place. It felt like a beginning. Emma and Daniel fell into a rhythm that neither of them questioned. Morning coffees turned into afternoon walks. Quiet smiles replaced long silences. Yet, beneath every laugh, something unspoken lingered: fear. One afternoon, Emma noticed Daniel staring at his phone, his jaw tight. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Daniel hesitated. "My wife's parents are selling the house." Emma nodded slowly. She had heard stories about that house, how it was filled with framed photographs, handwritten notes, and memories that never faded. They asked me to come, he added, to take what I want before it's gone.
Emma felt a strange ache. Will you go? I have to. The next few days felt heavier. At the cafe, Daniel was quieter. He smiled, but his eyes drifted. Emma tried not to push, but one morning she finally spoke. Are you afraid? She asked softly. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. I'm afraid that if I let myself love again, I'm betraying her. Emma swallowed. And I'm afraid of being someone's second chance instead of their first choice. The words hung between them, honest, raw. That evening, Emma went home and couldn't write a single line. Her notebook stayed open, blank. For the first time in years, words failed her. The next morning, Daniel didn't come to the cafe. By noon, Emma received a message. I'm at the house. I didn't expect it to hurt this much. She replied immediately. You don't have to be strong alone. Hours passed before another message came. There's a box of letters. She wrote to me when she was sick. I never opened them. Emma's heart raced. Maybe she wanted you to read them when you were ready. That night, Daniel came to the cafe just before closing. His eyes were red, his shoulders tired. She knew, he said as he sat down. She knew I would meet someone someday. Emma held her breath. She wrote, if love finds you again, don't run from it. Love doesn't replace love, it grows. Tears filled Emma's eyes. Daniel reached for her hand, then stopped, uncertain. She closed the distance. I don't want to be a replacement, Emma said. I want to be a continuation. Daniel's fingers wrapped around hers. For the first time, they kissed, not rushed, not desperate, but gentle. Like two people asking permission from the past before stepping into the future. Outside, the cafe lights dimmed. Inside, something healed. Yet, even as hope settled between them, life prepared one more test. The next morning, Emma received an email. Her writing had been accepted for a year-long program in another city. She stared at the screen, heart pounding. The cafe bell rang at 8:15. Daniel walked in, smiling. Emma didn't know yet how to tell him. Some stories don't end because of lack of love. Sometimes they pause because love demands a choice. Emma held the email open for a long time. The words didn't change. Congratulations. You have been selected. A year. Another city. Another life. At 8:15, she walked into the cafe like she always did, but her steps felt heavier. Daniel was already there, 2 cups of cappuccino waiting. You're quiet today, he said gently. Emma sat down, fingers trembling slightly as she pushed her phone toward him. I got accepted, she said. A writing program. 1 year. Daniel read the screen slowly. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with pride and pain. That's incredible, he said honestly. You're not angry? Emma asked. No, he replied. I'd be angry if you stayed and abandoned your dream. Silence settled between them, thick and fragile. I don't want to lose you, Emma whispered. Daniel reached across the table and held her hand firmly. You won't. Some people aren't meant to be held in one place. They spent the following weeks doing everything gently, like time itself had become breakable. Long walks, quiet dinners, shared laughter that sometimes ended in tears. On their last morning together, the cafe felt different. Emma arrived early. She placed her notebook on the table and slid it toward Daniel. I wrote something for you, she said. Daniel opened it. It wasn't a story. It was a letter. You taught me that love doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it sits across from you, holding a cup of coffee, waiting to be seen. Daniel's vision blurred. I have something for you too, he said, pulling out a photograph. It was the Blue Leaf Cafe. The corner table. 2 empty chairs. I titled it before goodbye, he said. Emma smiled through tears. You always know how to say things without words. They stood at the door of the cafe, the bell above them quiet for once. Promise me something, Daniel said. What? Don't write about losing me. Emma shook her head. I'll write about finding myself. He kissed her forehead, long and careful, as if memorizing the moment. Then she walked away. The cafe bell rang softly. 1 year later, the cafe was busier than ever. Emma pushed the door open at 8:15. She was different now, stronger, calmer. Her book had been published. Her name printed on its cover. She sat at the corner table. A familiar voice spoke. Medium cappuccino. No sugar? Emma looked up. Daniel stood there, smiling. You're late, she said, tears already forming. You came back, he replied. Some places, Emma said softly, are chapters we must finish before we move on. They sat together again. Not as strangers. Not as people afraid of the past. But as two souls who understood that love is not about possession. It is about growth.